So you got to move. What type of thinking must the mind engage in if it is to move, if it is to begin to renew itself, if it is to vitalize the energy of our thinking? Would this thinking in turn renew the body, the physical body, as well as the body of affairs? Setting the law in action through our thinking demonstrates consequences in our experience. And the great master teacher, Jesus of Nazareth, even when he was questioned by the Pharisees and the scribes, who were superficially religious, but not at all spiritually awake, taught this principle by sharing stories, or what is referred to in the big book as parables. And so somehow I got on this. I don't know how. I opened the book, it was there, and it said law of use, which is vitality. That's how we move the energy. So the whole teaching of Jesus is about inner transformation. He never told anyone what to do. He showed them how to be, how to live from within themselves. And the parable of the two sons that I shared in the inspirational reading demonstrates the difference between words and deeds and intentions and actions. When we speak our word, do we follow through in our deeds? When we set an intention, do we take the action that it requires? If our words are not in harmony with our actions, what state of consciousness are we demonstrating? And this is about the movement from faith to belief to conviction. So, for example, the chair that you're sitting in this morning. As a child, your caregiver undoubtedly placed one of those in your sacred space. And at first, you were probably kind of concerned about what that was all about. And so you may have pushed it. You may have tasted it. Children taste everything, right? And then because you had faith in your caregiver, you finally got up the courage to sit in the chair because you had seen your caregiver and probably other people sit in them as well. And it held you up. So then your faith is supported by the belief that the chair supports you. Now when you come into the room, because you've done this so many times, you know that when you sit down, it's going to support you. So you've moved into a place of complete conviction. And this is the way we want to look at and demonstrate and participate in the vitality of the Great Spirit. The faith, the belief, and the conviction that it is always there for us. If we are to reveal ourselves as the spiritual beings that we are, we need that faith, we need that belief, and we need that conviction. It's not enough to merely say, I believe. We must show that our consciousness has shifted through our experience of living. And this is what Mother Teresa is referring to when she says, to keep a lamp burning, we have to put oil into it. So in the parable, the father asks his son to go into the vineyard and do the work. And metaphysically, the vineyard represents the one mind, where we all live and move and have our experience. Where through our conscious awareness of our oneness, when we think and speak, we set that law in motion. And the Father, metaphysically, of course, is cause. That is the action beneath our experience. So he asks his sons to go to work within the one mind to shift their belief systems. And life will always be calling us to do the work, especially when we've been hurt, or we're disappointed, or even if we just desire to simply make a change in our experience. So one son says, I will, but he doesn't. The other son says, I will not, but later he does. So we have the power to choose what type of oil we're going to put into our lamp so that our experience can come out and manifest. So Jesus of Nazareth was a great metaphysician. He led by example. He didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. He didn't talk about the power, he performed miracles of healing. He didn't talk about service, he washed the feet of the apostles. He didn't boast about eternal life, he ascended from the planet. And he said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father. So greater works than these, so shall we do. Why? Because when we go to the Father, which is the cause to our experience, we're doing the work within our own consciousness. And the results outpicture in our experience. So the father in the parable doesn't judge the thoughts of his sons. It doesn't matter what our thoughts have been. The opportunity to work within our own consciousness to shift our belief systems is always available. The question becomes, are we ready to lead a more spiritual, awakened life? So the two sons give examples of the two types of people in the world. The second son, who says, I will, and does not, is the person who's very interested in the philosophy. He or she has the vernacular down pat, but never somehow has the time to put it into practice. This is the one that after the sermon comes up to the minister and says, everything you said applies to someone I know. Go figure. And we can empathize with him because there's something of that within us, is there not? So he or she belongs to that go away, you're different tribe. I know all there is to know. So the first son says, I will not, and later he does. This is the person who talks very little about their beliefs. They don't make an outward show of their religion or their spiritual path. Yet somehow they've worked their beliefs into their life experience. And he or she belongs to the come teach me tribe. And often these people have experienced the sordid side of life, which drives them in the opposite direction, towards a greater spiritual understanding. And many of our great spiritual teachers, like the phoenix, have risen from the ashes to become the master teachers that they are. So the parable of the two sons shows that individual worthiness is measured more by what one does than by what one says. So initially the first son rejects the spiritual path when he disobeys his father, which is cause to his experience. Once he realizes that he's made a mistake, he changes his belief and he decides to go into the vineyard to do the work. So this is the person who questions life, and life answers them back. Sometimes you may be right. Sometimes you may be wrong. Sometimes you may be high. Sometimes you may be low. But when the Lord, which metaphysically, of course, is the law, gets ready, you got to move. The power to set the law in motion is within you. And that is what our theme this month of Vitality is all about. Dr. Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of the Science of Mind teaching, tells us we are filled with enthusiasm, and a sense of energy and vitality. It is simply waiting for us to turn towards it, to connect with it. So the second son agrees readily to work, but he is not a man of his word. He makes no effort to go near the vineyard. He knows the ideas of truth intellectually, but he does not try to apply them. So when he says, I will go, but he does not, he wants to go. He desires to go. He intends to go. But subjectively, because his belief system is askew, he does not consciously know that he cannot go. All the truth that we can ever hear about or read about or know intellectually will only help us to the extent that we use it. Every idea that we put into practice strengthens our faith, our belief, and our conviction. And this is why the harlots go into the kingdom of heaven ahead of the Pharisees. Because the Pharisees make a show of religion, but they have no practice. The harlots, on the other hand, have been there and done that. They have done the work. So it's not enough to merely say, I believe. If we plan to demonstrate a world that works for everyone, the original thoughts within our belief systems must change. And we do this through a process called spiritual mind treatment. And if you have any questions about that, there's a couple of classes coming up that you can sign up for. So Jesus of Nazareth was a practical idealist who understood truth principles and applied them to change people's lives. He showed us what to do inside of ourselves, with our thinking and our feelings, in order to tap into that vitality of the Great Spirit. So You Gotta Move is about understanding that movement. Dr. Holmes says that vitality means that on which life depends, but vitality in man comes from and is of God. So we are a self-choosing mind in a divinity that lives and moves and expresses itself through us. The gateway to the higher dimensions is open. The opportunity to outpicture our thoughts instantaneously is upon us right here and right now. So I cannot stress the importance of building a positive pattern of beliefs within your subjective mind. When our consciousness is in alignment with our faith, the courage of our beliefs provides the conviction that empowers our intentions. And Alex Carroll says that only in prayer do we achieve that complete and harmonious assembly of body, mind, and spirit, which gives the frail human reed its unshakable strength. And Dr. Holmes in the Science of Mind Glossary says that the vitality of God is self-existence. That simply means that the power exists within us. He also says that the vitality of God is self-propelling. What that means is that the law is always working. Just like the laws of nature, the spiritual laws are always in harmony. As we recognize this indwelling presence within us and we unify with it, affirming that all things are possible, our understanding of truth and our ability to use it in every aspect of our lives increases our vitality. So I encourage you to become conscious of your oneness within this power, to immerse yourself within the flow, to focus only upon our collective, heartfelt illumination. And let's create a world that works for everyone together. Thank you, and namaste.